They say some people run when love gets close. But what if I told you the ones who pull away are often the ones who care the deepest? There is a kind of person who doesn't chase, doesn't cling, and doesn't wear their heart on their sleeve. Instead, they retreat into silence, hide behind distance, and build emotional walls so carefully that even those who matter most can't see what's really happening inside. To the outside world, they look uninterested, unaffected, unbothered. But that's only the surface. Beneath that distance lives someone who has felt too much, been hurt too deeply, and learned to survive by pretending they don't need anyone. These are the people who don't confess love easily, not because they don't feel it, but because loving openly feels dangerous. They've built their world around emotional control, around staying composed, staying independent, staying safe. Yet even the strongest walls shake when someone touches their soul gently instead of forcefully. Even the most guarded hearts pause when they feel seen without being pressured, and that pause, that moment of unexpected emotional resonance, is exactly where real connection begins. You don't reach an avoidant heart by chasing it. You don't reach it by questioning, begging, or demanding closeness. You reach it with presence, with emotional steadiness, with words so simple and sincere that they slip past the armor and land quietly in the places they hide. Because when someone who fears vulnerability hears something that doesn't threaten their independence but honors their humanity, they don't forget it. They carry it with them. They replay it in their mind. They think about the person who didn't try to force their heart open, but simply made it feel safe enough to breathe. There is a sentence so gentle yet so powerful that it doesn't overpower them. It comforts them. It doesn't chase them. It grounds them. It doesn't demand emotion. It awakens it. And when these words are spoken with sincerity, they echo long after the conversation ends. They linger in their thoughts throughout the day. They soften the emotional armor they spent years building. They make them remember you, not with fear or pressure, but with warmth, curiosity, and a quiet pull they cannot easily ignore. So, if you've ever wondered how someone who keeps their distance can still think about you endlessly, if you've ever loved someone who seems emotionally far yet emotionally attached at the same time, if you've ever questioned whether your presence could truly matter to someone who rarely shows it, stay here, because sometimes it isn't loud passion that leaves a mark on the avoidant heart. Sometimes it's the calmest words, the most grounded truth, the simplest reassurance. Sometimes it's the moment they don't feel pushed. But understood, people often misunderstand avoidant individuals because what they show on the surface rarely reflects what they feel inside. To many, they seem distant, detached, uninterested, or emotionally numb. But beneath that restrained exterior lives a deeply feeling, highly sensitive inner world. Avoidants are not people without emotions. They are people who have learned, through experiences often rooted in their past, that emotional vulnerability is risky. Somewhere in their story, closeness became linked with pain, criticism, rejection, or suffocation. Their minds learned the lesson that emotions are best hidden, contained, and organized in private rather than expressed openly in relationships. So when people say avoidants don't care, it is rarely true. They care intensely. They just fear the cost of caring. Inside an avoidant person, emotions are not small. In fact, they are often overwhelming. They may think about what they feel constantly, but rarely allow those feelings to reach the surface. Instead of expressing affection, they experience it silently. Instead of admitting fear, they swallow it. Instead of showing hurt, they distance themselves. Their emotional system is like a vault. Everything is locked, controlled, and protected, not because they are cold, but because vulnerability feels dangerous. Where others see indifference, there is often inner struggle. Where others see silence, there is internal dialogue. Where others see emotional distance, there is a heart that is simply afraid of being exposed again. Avoidants often grew up in environments where emotional needs were minimized, dismissed, or misunderstood. Sometimes they were told to be strong, don't cry, get over it, or stop being dramatic. Sometimes they had caregivers who were inconsistent, emotionally unavailable, or overwhelmed themselves. Sometimes love was present but unsafe, conditional, or unpredictable. As a result, they learned early that relying on others emotionally is not safe. So they built emotional independence as survival. Independence became strength. Self-reliance became protection. Emotional detachment became security. Their distance is not a rejection of others as much as it is a shield to protect themselves from being hurt in the ways they once were. Because of this, avoidants often carry a quiet sensitivity. They notice more than they express. They feel more than they admit. They think deeply but reveal selectively. When something affects them emotionally, they do not rush into conversation. Instead, they step back, reflect, analyze, and try to regain control of their feelings. Their instinct is to regulate internally, not relationally. Where other attachment styles seek comfort through connection, avoidants retreat to solitude to process their emotions. They feel safer when they are not emotionally dependent. This does not mean they prefer loneliness. It means they fear emotional vulnerability more than they fear being alone. Avoidants also fear losing themselves in relationships. To them, closeness can feel like pressure, obligation, or emotional invasion. If someone asks too much, expects constant reassurance, or pushes for emotional intimacy too quickly, avoidants do not feel loved, they feel trapped. Their nervous system interprets emotional closeness as potential danger because in their past, closeness came with emotional cost. So they distance, not because they don't care, but because they are trying to preserve their sense of safety and identity. Distance is their breathing space. Space is how they calm their inner world. Pulling away is not always rejection, often it is regulation. Yet despite their guarded behavior, their hearts are not closed. They long for connection just like anyone else. They want to be understood. They want to feel safe in someone's presence. They want love that does not suffocate them, pressure them, or try to tear down their defenses forcefully. What they crave is a connection that respects their boundaries, honors their pace, and recognizes that their emotional system moves differently. They are deeply emotional individuals who need to feel that they will not be judged, controlled, or overwhelmed when they open up. When they sense safety instead of pressure, patience instead of demand, acceptance instead of critique, something softens inside them. Their emotional world is layered. Beneath their calm exterior lies vulnerability. Beneath their independence lies fear of being emotionally dependent. Beneath their stoicism lies longing. They may think about the people they care about far more than they ever express. They replay conversations in their minds. They miss quietly. They love quietly. They hurt quietly. They rarely dramatize their emotions, not because they lack depth, but because emotional restraint is their comfort zone. Their silence is rarely emptiness, it is self-protection. Avoidants also struggle with internal conflict. Part of them wants closeness, warmth, affection, and emotional connection. Another part of them fears it, resists it, or withdraws from it. This internal conflict can be exhausting. They may care deeply about someone yet behave as though they don't. They may want to reach out but stop themselves. They may think about texting yet put the phone down. They may imagine closeness but choose distance. This is not emotional cruelty, it is emotional caution born from experience and deeply rooted psychological patterns. When avoidants meet someone who triggers their feelings, they often feel overwhelmed, even if they do not show it. Strong emotions destabilize their carefully guarded sense of control. Love, attachment, longing, vulnerability. These feelings awaken joy, but also fear. They fear losing emotional stability. They fear needing someone. They fear the possibility that if they open up, they might be hurt, rejected, misunderstood, or abandoned. So they keep emotions contained because they believe it protects them, even if it also isolates them. Understanding avoidance means recognizing that their guarded nature is not proof of emotional emptiness. It is proof of emotional sensitivity. People who feel little do not need strong walls. People who feel deeply do. Their defenses exist because their emotions matter greatly to them. If someone were truly indifferent, they would not need to protect themselves so carefully. The very existence of emotional armor proves the presence of something valuable beneath it. That something is their heart, their vulnerability, their unexpressed emotional depth, and their quiet capacity for love that rarely shows itself loudly but exists powerfully within them. Words carry emotional energy, especially for someone with an avoidant attachment style, and the kind of language used around them plays a powerful role in how they respond internally. Avoidants are not drawn to emotional intensity, pressure, dramatic declarations, or demands for closeness. Those kinds of words feel threatening to their nervous system. They create pressure, expectation, and a feeling of being emotionally cornered. Instead, the words that stay with an avoidant are the ones that communicate safety, emotional freedom, and acknowledgement of their inner experience. These words do not try to force closeness. They invite it gently. They do not demand reassurance. They create reassurance. They do not guilt or push. They respect and affirm. Because avoidants are deeply sensitive beneath their composed exterior, words that honor their autonomy while validating their emotional reality sink into their subconscious and linger long after the conversation is over. Avoidants are highly aware of threat cues in relationships. Emotional language that implies urgency, obligation, or dependency activates their instinct to withdraw. When someone says things like, "Why can't you just open up? You need to talk to me," or "If you cared, you would show it," the avoidant does not hear love. They hear pressure. They hear emotional expectation. They hear a demand that feels unsafe. Their mind interprets these words as emotional intrusion, and their instinctive response is to create distance. But when they hear words that communicate emotional understanding, patience, and choice, they feel something different. They feel respected rather than invaded. They feel seen rather than judged. They feel acknowledged rather than criticized. This difference is everything because their nervous system calms when they are not being pushed, and in calmness, their emotional world has space to awaken. Words of safety are crucial. Safety to an avoidant does not mean protection from the outside world as much as protection from emotional overwhelm. When someone says words like, "You don't have to rush," "I'm not here to pressure you," or "You can open up when you're ready," it sends a powerful message to their subconscious. You are safe to exist emotionally at your own pace. Those words reduce the internal fear that they will be consumed, overwhelmed, or emotionally controlled. Safety tells them that emotional closeness does not mean losing themselves. Safety tells them that connection does not require them to surrender their identity. Safety tells them that there is room for their discomfort. This assurance builds trust slowly, and trust is what allows their emotions to surface naturally rather than defensively shutting down. Autonomy is another deeply important element. Avoidants value independence not only as a preference, but as a psychological survival strategy that has shaped their identity. When they sense that someone respects their independence, they start to relax. When they hear words like, "I respect your space," "You're free to take your time," "Your pace matters," or even subtle acknowledgments of their individuality, they experience relief instead of tension. These words do not challenge their defenses, they gently coexist with them. They do not attempt to dismantle the walls forcefully. They wait kindly at the door. Autonomy-based language tells them that the relationship will not suffocate them. It assures them that they can stay connected without feeling trapped. Paradoxically, when autonomy is respected, avoidants are more likely to approach instead of withdraw, because their fear of losing themselves decreases. Acknowledgement is perhaps the most emotionally penetrating language for an avoidant. Many avoidants spent years feeling misunderstood or misinterpreted. They were often labeled as cold, heartless, detached, selfish, or emotionally insensitive, even though their emotional reality was the opposite. They have rarely experienced someone truly naming their struggle with compassion. When someone acknowledges their inner world rather than attacking their behavior, it reaches a very deeply buried emotional place. Words like, "I know it's not easy for you," "I see you're trying in your own way," "I know you care even if you don't always show it," or "Your feelings matter even when you stay quiet," have a quiet, lingering power. These types of words validate their emotional experience without shaming them. Instead of telling them what they should be, these words honor who they are. Acknowledgement tells them that someone finally understands that their silence is not emptiness, but protection. This creates an emotional imprint that stays in their mind because emotional recognition is rare for them. Avoidants do not respond to emotional theatrics, confrontational lectures, or emotional ultimatums. But they remember kindness. They remember emotional patience. They remember those who created peace instead of chaos. The mind of an avoidant replays interactions not based on intensity, but based on emotional impact. Soft, grounded reassurance lives longer in their thoughts than passionate speeches. Gentle truth has more effect than emotional confrontation. There is something profoundly disarming about hearing words that offer comfort without demanding closeness, presence without force, care without expectation. These words become echoes in their minds because they contrast so deeply with the emotional pressure they are used to experiencing. The subconscious mind of an avoidant reacts most to language that allows them to feel safe while also feeling valued. Their emotional brain stores experiences that affirmed them, soothed them, and allowed them dignity. When someone uses emotionally intelligent and gentle communication, the avoidant often finds themselves thinking about that person unexpectedly. They may not outwardly express it, but internally they replay the interaction. They feel curiosity, warmth, and subtle emotional pull. They remember how it felt to be seen without being pushed. They remember how it felt to be accepted without being demanded from. That emotional memory becomes something they quietly hold on to. Another reason such words stay with them is because avoidants rarely give themselves emotional softness. They are hard on themselves. They suppress, self-regulate, and stay emotionally disciplined. When someone speaks to them with compassion and emotional sensitivity, it touches a part of them they rarely nurture. It reminds them of a gentler emotional existence. It makes vulnerability feel slightly less threatening. Even if they do not respond immediately, or even if they seem unaffected on the surface, this type of language affects them internally. Their emotional processing is slower and more private, but the impact is real and long-lasting. Words of safety, autonomy, and acknowledgement also speak directly to their deepest fear. That connection will lead to loss of control, pain, or emotional exposure that they cannot handle. By hearing language that respects their boundaries, honors their emotional pace, and validates their inner experience, their fear lowers. When fear lowers, connection becomes possible. When connection feels possible, feelings begin to emerge. When feelings emerge, the person who provided that emotional safety becomes meaningful in their mind. That is why subtle reassurance carries such unique power with avoidance. It doesn't overwhelm their nervous system. It doesn't threaten their independence. It doesn't shame their emotional patterns. It works with their psychology, not against it. So the right words do not force an avoidant into closeness. They invite them gently into the possibility of it. They create warmth without pressure, closeness without force, and emotional resonance without emotional invasion. Those kinds of words do not disappear quickly. They linger. They echo. They settle in the quieter corners of an avoidant's mind, reminding them that connection can exist without fear, that emotional intimacy can coexist with autonomy, and that they are not alone in their emotional experience, even if they are not ready to express it openly. Subtle reassurance has a powerful psychological effect on avoidant individuals because it speaks in a language their nervous system can actually receive. Emotional pressure feels like an alarm to them. It triggers self-protective instincts, makes them feel overwhelmed, and pushes them into withdrawal. But calm emotional truth, expressed gently and without demand, does the opposite. It creates space. It allows breathing room. It allows feelings to exist without being forced into the spotlight. Avoidant individuals do not respond well when someone tries to pull emotions out of them. They feel invaded when someone insists on immediate closeness, intense emotional discussions, or constant reassurance. Their emotional system interprets this as danger rather than love. Pressure, even if it comes from a place of care, can feel like emotional suffocation to them. So instead of moving closer, they back away. Instead of opening up, they shut down. Instead of feeling connection, they feel defended. That is why pressure fails. It doesn't speak to their inner world, it threatens it. Subtle reassurance is different because it doesn't attempt to control or shape their emotional response. It allows them to stay themselves. It respects their boundaries and emotional limits. When someone communicates steady care without urgency, panic, or emotional demand, the avoidant person doesn't feel attacked. They don't feel like they have to protect themselves as fiercely. Subtle reassurance says, "You're safe to exist as you are." It removes the emotional spotlight, and that allows their inner feelings to breathe. Calm emotional truth does not dramatize or exaggerate. It doesn't guilt them, rush them, or corner them emotionally. It speaks softly, honestly, and without expectation. And because avoidants have spent so much of their lives being misunderstood, judged, or pressured, this softness feels unfamiliar but incredibly meaningful to them. Calm reassurance works because it reduces the nervous system's threat response. Avoidants are highly attuned to emotional threat cues like urgency, emotional demands, ultimatums, or overwhelming vulnerability pushed too fast. When they sense someone is emotionally grounded, stable, and patient, their internal alarms quiet. Their body relaxes. Their mind no longer needs to focus on escape or distance. In that calmer internal state, emotions can be processed instead of pushed away. They can reflect, think, and gradually feel. Connection becomes something they can consider rather than something they must defend themselves from. Emotional calmness tells them they are not being cornered into intimacy. It tells them they have choice and emotional control, and control is essential for them to feel safe. Subtle reassurance also respects their emotional timing. Avoidants do not process feelings the same way others do. They do not rush into emotional conversations. They do not immediately react, and they do not comfortably sit inside raw vulnerability. Their emotional system moves slower, more internally, and more cautiously. When someone gives them reassurance without expecting instant emotional reciprocation, it allows them to engage at their natural pace. This is deeply important because avoidants don't lack emotion, they lack safety in expressing it. When reassurance is calm, patient, and consistent, they begin to trust that expressing emotion won't lead to dependency, loss of control, or emotional chaos. That trust is the foundation that allows them to gradually lower their defenses. Another powerful aspect of subtle reassurance is that it does not challenge their independence. Avoidants guard their autonomy fiercely because they learned long ago emotional dependence can be painful, unsafe, or disappointing. Pressure threatens autonomy. It says, "You must give me something now." But subtle reassurance says, "You're free to feel how you feel." It doesn't intrude. It doesn't force closeness. It coexists with their walls instead of trying to rip them down. Ironically, this respect for their independence makes them more emotionally open. When they don't feel like their autonomy is at risk, they don't need distance as protection. They become curious instead of defensive. They begin to wonder whether closeness can exist without erasing themselves. They begin to imagine connection as something peaceful instead of threatening. Calm emotional truth is also powerful because avoidants deeply value emotional honesty, just not emotional intensity. When someone communicates feelings clearly but gently, without accusation or desperation, it lands differently. A calm, "I care about you," spoken with emotional steadiness, reaches further than a frantic declaration of love. A soft, "I'm here for you," carries more weight than an emotional plea for closeness. Avoidants sense authenticity very sharply. They are sensitive to emotional manipulation, guilt-tripping, and emotional theatrics. Calm truth feels sincere. It feels grounded. It feels safe because it doesn't attempt to control their response. It simply exists. And avoidants can sit with truth that isn't forced upon them. They can think about it privately, process it slowly, and allow its meaning to grow naturally instead of defensively fighting it. Subtle reassurance also speaks to a place inside avoidance where they quietly long to be reassured but rarely allow themselves to admit it. On the surface, they act like they don't need anyone. They present emotional strength and self-sufficiency. But underneath, they still have human needs: to be valued, to be important, to be emotionally held without being consumed. Subtle reassurance touches that hidden need without humiliating them or making them feel weak. It doesn't expose them. It doesn't embarrass them with vulnerability. It simply sits there as emotional safety, waiting for them whenever they are ready to acknowledge it. This kind of reassurance slowly builds emotional familiarity. The avoidant starts associating you with calm rather than threat. They begin to feel warmth instead of tension. They begin to feel emotionally considered instead of emotionally demanded from. Respecting their distance while offering emotional truth creates a balance that avoidants rarely experience. Most people either withdraw completely or push too hard. Very few stay steady in the middle, holding emotional presence without forcing emotional closeness. When someone manages to do that, it leaves a strong imprint. The avoidant begins to think about that person more because their nervous system remembers peace, their subconscious remembers safety, their heart remembers that being emotionally close didn't feel dangerous in that moment. That memory lingers because it contradicts their long-held belief that closeness always equals threat. It opens a doorway inside them, not dramatically, not instantly, but slowly and quietly. Subtle reassurance also communicates emotional maturity. Avoidants are often skeptical of emotional chaos because they fear getting trapped in it. When someone shows stability, emotional regulation, and self-control, it signals that this is not a relationship that will demand emotional labor they cannot handle. It shows that emotions can exist without turning into pressure or dependency. That sense of emotional maturity lowers their instinct to escape. It tells them they can stay without losing balance. It shows them that connection does not automatically mean losing safety, self, or peace. And when avoidants feel this combination of safety and emotional truth consistently, their guarded heart slowly begins to trust that closeness may not be as dangerous as it once was for them. The power to reach an avoidant heart isn't found in pressure, persuasion, or emotional intensity, but in presence, patience, and truth, spoken calmly. The person who pulls away is not always rejecting love. Many times they are protecting themselves from an emotional world that has hurt them before. When you choose to approach them with gentleness instead of urgency, reassurance instead of demand, and emotional honesty instead of emotional pressure, you show them something rare. You show them that connection can exist without fear, that closeness doesn't have to cost their identity, and that love can be steady instead of overwhelming. Those three simple words do more than just linger in their mind. They soften defenses, plant emotional memory, and remind them that being seen doesn't always come with pain. An avoidant does not forget the person who made vulnerability feel safe rather than threatening. They remember the calm, the understanding, and the respect. So instead of pushing closer, learn to stand grounded. Instead of demanding love, embody safety. Instead of trying to break their walls, become the reason they no longer need them. Because sometimes the greatest impact on an avoidant heart isn't made by the loudest love, but by the love that knows how to breathe softly and still be felt deeply.